welcome into another edition of the Recruiting Rundown here on GamecockCentral.com. I'm Kendall Smith, joined alongside of Chris Clark for the very first time, I think, ever on a show. Chris, you tell me that you're the backup for these shows.
Yep.
Like, I asked Chris to do the show, and he says, Wes is your guy. Like, I'm just the backup, and I've accepted it. But I think if you do well today, you might have a permanent role on the Recruiting Rundown.
That is my angle. I'm hoping that I can overtake Wes's spot, or at least get like a little bit more airtime than Wes, because I am a little jealous, I'll admit. I was passed over for the show, but I am glad to be here, and thank you for having me on today.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I know it has been a super busy week for Gamecock Central, switching over to On3, which, by the way, give them the promo, Chris. There's still the Founders Club promo going on right now for Gamecock Central.
Still going on. I don't know, Kendall, how long it'll be going on. So the people maybe even pause the video and go over real quick to GamecockCentral.com. $1 for your entire first year. Stay through the whole year. You get it for $1 for your first whole year, and you get the Founders Club hat if you sign up in time. Can't beat that, right? $1 free Founders Club hat in at Gamecock Central. Ton going on, so it's a great deal. We're glad to offer it. Jump in on it.
Don't miss out on the opportunity. Just $1, like Chris said. But this show is all about recruiting. Chris, you are a recruiting insider for Gamecock Central, so I want to go ahead and get right on into it. This past Wednesday, National Signing Day, and it seemed to be a little bit slow for South Carolina. And we know that back in December for the early signing period, things were really, really busy. A lot of your headline names signing in December. So is it kind of the norm now in February to have a slower day for a lot of schools, or was this just a South Carolina thing?
It is more of the norm, Kendall. I mean, the early signing period started for the 2018 cycle. And I remember like Wes and I, covering it back then, we were sitting around going, okay, how is this going to change things? Because you can come up with theories, conjectures, whatever. You really don't know until it happens. The thought was that college coaches would push guys to sign early, and that for the most part guys would. Well, that was the case, and it was like to the extreme. I remember that cycle. I think South Carolina signed all but 2 of their guys that first cycle, the very first cycle in the early signing period for the 2018 class. And since then, we've seen more and more of that. It's kind of blended now, with South Carolina. Past 2 cycles, for instance, we've seen a lot of guys sign early in December, and then we've seen a bunch of transfers as well make decisions in that December or January window. So that's kind of how it's working out, just because of the transfer portal. We've seen that increase, obviously, with the advent of the 1-year transfer exemption. There's a lot of activity then. Coaches are holding some spots. And then a lot of guys sign in December. There were some schools, Texas A&M, Florida, Clemson. There were some others that had some signees on February, and there will be more for South Carolina in the future. But you do expect it to be much lighter, really, from here on out, unless they change the early signing period again. And that was the case, on Wednesday for Carolina as well.
Talking about that 2022 class, a good amount of that class filled at this point. But in terms of scholarships, what's it looking like for this 2022 class? How many are left, Chris?
So 2 spots really for South Carolina to play with. And I know Shane Beamer, Kendall, at his press conference alluded to the fact that they did have some flexibility to bring more guys on board. We think what he probably meant by that is, there are situations in which you can count guys forward, so there's a situation where you enroll a guy. Kai Kroger and Mitch Jeter actually did this in the 2020 class. South Carolina will have a prospect from the 22 class who ends up doing this. You enroll, you don't sign, then you can count forward to the next class. It gives you a little bit more flexibility. But just in terms of counters for the 2022 class, they can bring in 2 more guys. They're going to just kind of hold them right now, see what happens after the spring. We'll see more transfer portal activity out of South Carolina, some guys out of other schools, and see what happens. So it does give them some flexibility for a couple more spots going forward.
Outside of National Signing Day in that 2022 class, any other recruiting notes you can add that happened over the past week that might be of interest to Gamecock fans?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's pretty slow, Kendall. We know that in the month of January, for instance, there were, I think, 3 weekends where South Carolina had junior days. A couple of the elite underclassmen junior days where they had guys like Marquis Anderson, the 4-star offensive lineman from Dorman, story with him on the front page of GamecockCentral.com right now, by the way. They had a lot of those type guys visit. The last weekend of January, actually a day where they brought in a lot of preferred walk-ons, and they got some good ones. DJ Black, for instance, from Chapman, Debo Samuels High School, committed as a PWO. But right now, it's just kind of in a holding pattern. Coaches aren't on the road. No prospects are allowed to visit right now. Things will open up once again in the spring, but this is a time for players that are on campus just to kind of work out, and not any in-person recruiting activity right this second.
Chris, I think you killed it. You might be giving Wes a run for his money on this
think
show.
So?
I mean, people, you've got to comment down below. Let us know on the Insiders Forum. What do you think? Should Wes or Chris be the guest on the show going forward? I can't make the decision. They're both my bosses, theoretically. So you guys have to make the decision. Another exciting note, actually, about tomorrow, Home Field is dropping a collection with South Carolina at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. So be sure to check that out. I'm so excited. I love the Home Field line. And we were actually super fortunate. We had the opportunity to get kind of a sneak peek, inside look, first look at the clothes. You guys are going to love them. So tomorrow, noon Eastern time, Home Field dropping a collection with South Carolina. You don't want to miss it. So much happening on Gamecock Central too. So if you haven't subscribed, it's just $1, but only for a little bit longer. So hop on the deal while you can. But this has been the Recruiting Rundown. It's free. It's on YouTube. So be sure to check out all of our other YouTube content. But I hope you all have an awesome day. He's Chris Clark. I'm Kendall Smith, and we will see you guys soon. Bye.